animals and people, and use your hazards when you're on a public road, especially if you're carrying something. So whether that falls out of the bucket or say the net wrap breaks on a bale and half of it falls out, I mean, these are things that can not only harm you, but if a car hits a half a round bale, you can imagine what would happen. And here's some hand signals, and I guess the safety gear got taken off, but these are all things that someone should know. Just having general signals, because you obviously can't communicate verbally through a cab, especially when you're operating. So you need hand signals that are specific to not only the loader, but the actual operation, whether you want to go up, down, tip your bucket. So I'm not going to go through all those, but just to know that those are there and they're in the loader manual. So if you aren't familiar and you're working with someone else, it's good to have some pre-hand signals set.
All right, now I'm going to talk about the 40-20. We're going to kind of change gears and go towards more safety features as opposed to maintenance. The main thing is your signs and your warnings on the 40-20. Of course, you know, I don't know how many years that 40-20 is old, but it's quite a few. So certainly it's not going to have all these danger and warning symbols on it. I know most all of you have run a lot of equipment, and you know what's safe and what's not. But with a class like this, where you got a lot of people coming through with diverse backgrounds, maybe someone runs case equipment, maybe somebody runs new equipment. I mean, there's a good chance somebody's in here that hasn't run the 40-20. So, you know, there's the different features on there that you just need to be aware of. You know, it wouldn't hurt to keep out the stickers, the maintenance, the signs on there that tell where the dangers are. To prevent machinery runaway, don't start on the ground. I know everybody does it. You're loading corn, you get hooked up to the auger, just reach over, start the tractor. You know, everybody does that, but, you know, if a little kid was on there playing around and you put it in first gear, you know, bad things could happen. So don't start it from the ground. I realize a lot of people do that, but if you do, make for dang sure it's in park. Another thing, if you're having tractor problems, your starter doesn't work, you get the screwdriver out, you try and start with the solenoid. A lot of people do that. Once again, you're starting it from the ground. The tractor jumps, you're standing right in front of that big tire. So if you get tractor starts and it jumps, it's basically just going to run you over. So just make sure that it's in park, or if you're on it and you got the clutch pushed in, you know, make sure it's in neutral to say the least. The gear shift, the PTO lever, for some of you that haven't run an older tractor like the 40-20, this is your PTO lever. You want to obviously make sure that's shut off before you start it, especially if it's hooked up to an implement where somebody could get hurt. The gear shift is on the right side. Park is all the way forward and into the left front corner there. And once again, when we talk about like no fender riding, you know, you're riding with your dad to go get another wagon, you jump on the fender. It's really pretty unsafe, especially with these small fenders. The tire's right there to catch your leg and throw you right off of it.
To talk about the rollover protection system a little bit, you're always supposed to wear a seatbelt, especially in the newer equipment. But on the older equipment too, like this 40-20, it does have a rollover protection system. And there is a seatbelt on it, and that's something that you should be using all the time. You need to inspect your seatbelt hardware at least once a year, probably more often. But if you're going to be using it all the time, you're obviously going to know whether or not there is something wrong with it. And one thing to point out is if an open station tractor like that does not have a rollover protection system on it, you do not wear a seatbelt with it. You don't want to be strapped to that tractor and have it roll over and be pinned underneath of it without any protection system. And then just some operations that, of course, these again all come right out of the manual, which we do have a manual for every tractor here, or we should. I know the 40-20 has one ordered. But some of the things that you just want to look at is you want to be alert to all hazards. And again, a lot of you guys have good farm backgrounds and know what these are, but you just need to be aware. That's the big thing. Be aware about everything that's out there. And you need to understand what causes accidents when you're on running this type of machinery and when you're hooked to implements. Some of the main accidents are from rollover, improper starting, like you talked about, starting with it jumping the starter, or starting from the ground, crushing and pinching points. And that comes back to what Abe said with the loader. You just got to watch where you're at. You don't want to be underneath of it. You don't want to be get your hands in places that could pinch. Another big thing that we really haven't touched on much yet is collisions with other vehicles. If you're driving that tractor down the road, especially an older 4020 like that doesn't go very real fast, and some of the newer tractors go quite a bit faster, but you want to make sure it's easily can be seen from anywhere on the road, other vehicles, because I mean, if you're going 18 miles an hour, some cars flying up 60 miles an hour, that's not going to look pretty if you get in a collision. And then entanglements in the PTO, that's huge too. I mean, we've all heard horror stories about somebody stepping over a PTO and got their pants caught or caught an arm on it or something. And I mean, I don't think anybody out here wants to live with that. And then falling from the tractor, riding on the fenders, you never know. You could be riding across the field or go through a waterway and one little bump and you're off and you're run over and that's the end of you. The fenders, again, we kind of pointed that out a little bit. Obviously, not you don't want to ride on the fenders at all anywhere. And on this 4020, there is a newer step on it. You don't want to, even though there's a handle there for climbing up it, you don't want to ride on that at all. It's one person on the tractor operating it, and that's it. And then you can kind of see from the picture on the far side there, the seatbelt harness, the hardware. It needs to be inspected and used on a regular basis anytime you're operating the machinery. And then again, before we dismount the tractor, we want to have it put in park before you shut it off and dismount it. You never want to get on or off a moving tractor. That's kind of goes hand in hand with starting from the ground. I mean, the tractor's moving. It's not going to be a real great idea to get on or off it. One little slip, if it was icy out in the wintertime, you go down and that's it. When you're leaving this machinery unattended, you want to place it in park, lower all implements to the ground, stop the engine, and then it's safe to dismount. And of course, if you have any little kids or anything around, it's not a bad idea to take the keys out of these things. Or if you're leaving it on a farm that's not at home or somewhere that's not a secure area, it's not a bad idea to ever take the key with you because you never know who could be coming around. Getting on that machinery, taking it for a joyride, you never know what's going to happen, because then you don't want to be liable if some punks or whatever, some kids come out and they're stealing your tractor, joyriding through waterways and tip it over and kill themselves, and boy, that wouldn't be good. And then you never want to go near a moving PTO, obviously, too. We'll just kind of touch on that, and we'll point that out a little more when we get outside.
Can anybody tell me what's missing in one of these pictures?
An operator?
Flash from the right side.
Think more basically. Seatbelt.
Seatbelt's in
SMV sign.
Yeah, that's one major flaw that we found so far with the 4020 is obviously there's no SMV sign. I know it probably doesn't do a lot of time going down the road, but it's still law. You need to have an SMV sign on the tractor.
Especially in this area with all the traffic and stuff, and particularly if it would be, at night or something like that. There's nothing reflective on it.
I just want to add something that happened towards this. My brother, he worked here, he's 5 years older than I am. He was rear-ended in an animal science tractor by a drunk driver, so it happens. I mean, it was 11 o'clock in the afternoon. She smoked right into the back of the wagon. So, I mean, it happens. So don't think that. And luckily there was an SMV sign on the back of it, so it wasn't his fault. Not that it would have been. It would have been the university's, but just saying it's something that can happen at this university.
Like you kind of touched on already, the safety lights and devices. 4020 has one flasher on it. I think probably two would be better, especially at the top of on the back of the rocks, the canopy there. A little higher where you can see it if you're going to be doing a lot of traveling down the road. Turn signals, they're very important. When you come up behind a tractor, how are you going to know if it's going to turn if you don't have turn signals? That's a lot of problems. Somebody tries to pass you and you try and turn in. Good spot for an accident. Keep shields and protective shields in place all the time. I know like on the 4020 it doesn't have, it's missing some shields over the PTO and the manure spreader. We'll look at that when we go out there. A lot of people, they're paying to work around. A lot of people just pull them off, and that's usually when accidents happen. Like I talked about, I think our 4020 home has lights up here. I think that'd be a good spot for some lights where people can see it. And like I said, there's no orange sign back there. On the PTO, there's no shield right there. We'll look at that when we get outside.
Then we hooked the manure spreader up to the 4020 to show you guys some things. This is clearly not a state-of-the-art manure spreader anymore. It's got some years on it. And this kind of ties back into